Hello, 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 hello. It's good to see you. Say hello.
Welcome to the Husky Hockey Podcast. This is Weldie and Andrew here, ready to talk about your reigning, defending champion of the Cactus Cup, St. Cloud State Huskies. And I don't know about you, but I'm absolutely hyped, absolutely stoked. That nice little plaque is going to sit really nice at the Herb Brooks National Hockey Center next to the, I don't know, what's the Alaska and the Florida one
Kendall,
that we have?
Kendall Cup.
Kendall, that's it.
Kendall something, yeah. I think they'll have room for it. Whatever,
Everglades
whatever this
tournament,
was.
Everblades.
That one?
So
that one might have been, I think Tony Mosey may have absconded with that on his way out the door. Or Chris Hepp, one of the two, because I think that was why they were relieved of their roster spots shortly after that trip. Yeah, this goes down in the history of the many those vaunted midseason tournament titles.
Those vaunted. Well, Dartmouth got rid of their Ledyard Classic, so it's so we got to have something to take up the banner of the most prestigious midseason tournament. And why not this? So take that, Sun Devils, and your Desert Classic.
And the GLI, like they invited us that one
whatever.
year and then disinvited us, so it's dead to us. So it doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's dead. It's Mr. Wonderful. But you back to your traveling fan days. You went out there to the Springs, and so overall, how was the weather? How was the atmosphere? How was the in-person experience there to watch two victories as the Huskies swept the weekend?
Couple questions there. So first, a correction. We actually never were in Palm Springs proper. So the arena is in Palm Desert, California. This was kind of a learning experience for me. Palm Springs kind of generally refers to the area, but there's a lot of different actual cities. Palm Desert, Rancho Mirage is one. And then the actual city of Palm Springs is more to the west of what Palm Desert was. So we actually never made it into Palm Springs proper. So I couldn't tell you how Palm Springs was if you're talking about the city itself. The region, gorgeous, beautiful. Weather was in the mid to upper 60s for the weekend. It had rained, I guess.
Was that chilly for you coming from Arizona? Or is that
not so? It's basically what we've our cold stretch. We're going to dipping into the 50s this week, so we're kind of going into the cold stretch right now. But
we're having freezing rain.
Some of the locals in Palm Springs were kind of complaining because it had been raining and a little chillier in the week leading up to this thing. So, but a lovely area. If you love golf, and I know you do, you'd love this. You throw a rock in any direction, you'll hit a golf course, and very picturesque golf courses at that. So, beautiful scenery. You're in the mountain, kind of surrounded by mountains, but then you've got all these. It's just gorgeous scenery. I can see why people go. I can see the reputation that it has deserved. The arena itself, Acrisure Arena, I had to check how to pronounce that. The insurance company can't be sure how they pronounce it, but again, in a weird spot of town, not the most ideal spot of town. It's on like the other side of a freeway, and there's really nothing that surrounds it itself. Not something that you can really walk to, and there's not anything like restaurants or hotels directly adjacent to it that makes it sort of hey, I can just park my car here and spend the entire weekend here. You kind of got to get an Uber unless you want to pay $35 a night for parking. You really got to Uber places. And then on top of that, the nightlife at the town, or at least Palm Desert, the immediate area, kind of shut down about 9:00. So that limit. And when we're getting 2 games there and we're not out of that arena by 9:30 or 10 o'clock, it does limit your dinner options if you want to do a late night dinner, which it forced us to go to Applebee's on Saturday night.
Oh.
So because our options were so limited, there was one area really sort of further away
to the retirement community type.
It did have that vibe. Yes. I would definitely agree with that. So that was a bit of a downside to it. Like I said, the arena itself, I think was nice. Maybe 5-6 years old, does not look all that old, and modern arena, fully walkable in a ring, can do a lap around it, which I always like. The atmosphere was a little lacking. I don't know if you saw the games on TV, but
I did pony up the $30 for Flow Sports. So
yeah, I mean, it's not, I don't know if they were hoping for like the, because this is an AHL facility, Coachella Valley Firebirds. This is their home rink, Kraken affiliate. I don't know if they were, or how much they were marketing this event to, for instance, season ticket holders of the Firebirds. I don't know how last year's attendance was for this event. This is just the second year that they've had this Cactus Cup. These are 4 teams, 4 programs that not necessarily the most name brand schools. So probably wouldn't, I certainly wasn't imagining that this thing was going to be sold out, but maybe I expected a little bit more than what we got, which they're not even reporting attendance numbers on any of the box scores that I checked, but there couldn't have been more than 1,500 to 2,000 fans at any one point during this weekend. So in one sense, I mean, it gives the fans free reign. You're basically general admission. You could sit wherever you wanted, as close as you wanted. Gives you some access opportunities that you might not be, available to check out at, regular St. Cloud home game or most college hockey home rinks. So, there's downsides and upsides to that, but obviously I would have preferred a little bit more of a crowd there, but what can you do? The games itself will obviously go in depth with that, but for a one-off tournament, I wouldn't expect St. Cloud to be in this thing again. Frankly, just based on the attendance, I don't know how this thing continues. I can't imagine that the sponsors and whoever was putting this thing on was making a boatload of money putting this thing on this weekend. But so I don't know how many more Cacti Cup we're going to get. I don't know if that's the correct plural of Cactus Cup, but
I've heard it both ways.
If this was the last one, then St. Cloud maybe can keep that huge, bountiful trophy for winning this thing, and they'll keep it for all time. They don't have to give it back. Or maybe they do get invited back to maybe it's not their last time in Palm Springs playing hockey. Who knows? But as sort of a one-off event at this stage, glad that I checked that off the list and was able to catch a mid-season tournament, which was fun. And yeah, it's just a nice weekend in a unique area of the world that I hadn't been to before. So thumbs up. Nice.
Yeah, I looked last year at the attendance figures, and they didn't report them either. So, so both last year and now this year, they're not going to report. So, but like, I don't know, it seems like it's kind of a hard sell. If you're not going to cater to the locals of, hockey fans of the AHL team, like you can't expect 4 fan bases to really travel just over, just after the holidays. So, but yeah, we'll see what happens in the future, but we'll go ahead and start recapping some of the wins. But in just before that, let's go ahead and start the show correctly.
So we're talking about whiskey today.
Whiskey.
All right, we are going to India, which is already our second trip to India on this list.
Really, I don't remember that. What was the rating for the first one?
The first one in pack 2, the first whiskey was a 7-1 from India.
Okay, so it's kind of set a bar here.
Yeah,
7-1's pretty decent.
I think only one India from from the first pack, and that was only a 6-3, and that was Piccadilly.
Now I remember
India, and I was like, that seems like kind of an interesting name from India. I thought Piccadilly kind of reminds me of Piccadilly Circus in UK, but it was India. And then I was like, oh well, the British stole it. Yeah, that makes sense. So as they ought to do. But we'll go ahead and try this one from India. It's a really nice color. Cheers. Let's see how it is. Good on the nose. Ooh, that's a strong contender. This is very good. This is Drew. Idiri Drew. Cask strength. 114 proof. No kidding, I like it. Doesn't taste like 114 proof.
Or no. Yeah. That's not very strong, actually. My gimbals were off.
Oh yeah, this is. We're going 8.5.
Wow.
Maybe 8.6.
Is that charging into first place?
That's first place all time. 8.6. Just beating out the Ballykeef from Ireland in pack 1. I gotta
put it on the big board.
Whew. Hello. Indian whiskey. There you go. Huge fan.
Impressive.
All right, let's talk. Let's talk about the games. Huskies start off with a 6-2 victory over the 2013 national championships. That was stolen from us, kind of stolen from us, not really, but I'm going to say it was. Overall, I thought it was a really good game by the Huskies. It was a game where, like, I thought the shots on goal, especially the first and second period, you were talking last week about kind of getting off to like a good first period. And I thought the Huskies really did that this game. I didn't think Yale had a lot of rhythm in it. I didn't think they had much going for them. I thought Berzins overall played pretty well all weekend. Some of his rebound controls were a little bit scary, I'll say, but overall he wasn't punished too much about it. But Brnovic gets the power play goal there in the first period. A little bit worried about that whole power play because it felt like we were making really good passes, but we kept dusting off the puck and not just ripping it. So it was kind of like we were hesitating a little bit. And then it got over to Brnovic, and he hesitated a little bit, but he didn't make a mistake when he shot it, and he buried it. So sure enough, that gets the goal. Ernest scores in the second period. Yale gets it to 2-1, but the third period was all Huskies. Loftus, Brnovic scores. Andertuck tried to make it interesting for Yale to make it 4-2, but shortly after that, Miettinen scores his first, not only of the season, but his first goal since March 15th. Well, I guess it was the last game last year. So, but it was a empty netter that kind of sealed the gate. And then Joe Belisle kind of makes up for losing Anderchuk and scores his first career goal as a Husky. 6-2 win. Overall, I thought it was a really strong game by the Huskies. 47-29 on shots. Didn't give up a power play opportunity and went 1-for-1 on the power play, so you couldn't ask for anything better than that. I thought it was it was a performance against a team that you should have this type of performance, and they did. So I was really happy to see it.
Correct. And yeah, you nailed it when my being pleased with the opening, let's say 5-10 minutes of the first period, which, last show, kind of talking about the struggles of this team coming out on Fridays of a weekend, or first games of a weekend, and especially the first period of that first game of a weekend. It's not like they were dominant in the first 10 minutes or so of the first, but they were certainly in control. Their kind of slower first period would have been reserved for Saturday of these two games.
Mm-hmm.
Took them like the first 10 minutes to get a shot on goal on Saturday, which we'll get to in a little bit here. But even then, it's not like they were getting waylaid by the opponent. I think they were, for the most part, in control of these games, both of these games throughout the weekend. The majority of the play in each of the periods, I thought St. Cloud came out on top. And it's Yale, and again, we'll get to Lowell. They're not ranked. They're right around where Yale is in the NPI, which is to say pretty low. These aren't going to turn heads and go, wow, St. Cloud, they're back. From my perspective, this was more important for this team's just like a confidence boost. You got to play
in January.
Winning in January, first time in like almost 3 years that they've won a game in the month of January. Last two have been winless, a stretch of 15 games. So get that monkey off their back. But not only that, but you followed up, you got consecutive wins, 3 now, if you want to go back to the Denver game to close up the first half. And it gives you some forward momentum coming into the second half stretch of conference play going into Omaha. And you can only play the teams that are in front of you. I would have, obviously, we said it on the show last week, I would have rather played Mankato, not only for the fact that they're higher in pairwise and a win against them would have meant a little bit more to the math, but also because they're maybe to rekindle a rivalry that you maybe once had with an in-state rival like Mankato. But whatever, Lowell took care of that on Friday by beating Mankato. So you needed to play Lowell, and that's what they did, and that's what beat them. And Yale, I thought, is the worst of the two teams that you played this weekend against Lowell. And you did what you needed to do against a team like that. Not just win, but win kind of convincingly. Now, 4-2, until that empty netter, and then you got the Belial kind of garbage time goal. 6-2 might not be, it might not say the score might be a little bit deceiving, but as you mentioned, the shot disparity for St. Cloud, I didn't really think the game was ever in doubt, even 2-1 or 4-2. So, and it's good to see, less so with the Lowell game because he scored 3 goals versus the 6 here, but some good weekends from a number of players, multi-point games from guys like Finn Loftus, for instance, that we don't see that every weekend. Some of the usual suspects like Tyson Gross had big weekends, but good to see a guy like Loftus pitch in. Good to see a guy like Noah Ernest. That line with him, I mean, now it's Rode and Thorson's playing with him, but I'm kind of mainly, I tend to group Ernest and Rode together. And this was their best weekend since October. And maybe there was a theme there that they come out in these non-conference games. So we need to get them kind of going in the NCHC play as well, where they've been a little bit quieter. But again, sort of from that confidence standpoint, getting those guys back on the score sheet and factoring in some important goals is a big thing for this team's depth, and not just having to rely on that top line. Getting some scoring from secondary sources, I thought was big this weekend. So, and I thought Berzins, I might have thought he played a little bit better than even you did. I maybe I didn't see all those rebounds from my several vantage points. We were kind of walking around the arena, so but I thought he played fine. Again, he wasn't tested to the extent that a solid NCHC team is going to test him, but he made some saves when games were tight that he needed to make, and I thought he was steady for the most part this weekend. So yeah, again, these 2 wins, not going to be your best wins of the year math-wise, but I think these wins, more importantly, just kind of give you a boost going into the second half. And if it does sort of play a big factor in heading off at the pass, any kind of second half slide, even before it starts, we won't figure out how valuable these wins will be until we see the results of the conference schedule here down the stretch. But this puts you in as good a position. I mean, you lose 2 games this weekend. Omaha's been a tough place for this team to play in recent years. Like things tend to snowball when things go south for this team the last couple of years. So it's good that the momentum this time around, this year at least, it's moving in the right direction. It's moving upwards as the schedule starts to toughen. So I always like to see Huskies get some hardware, even if it isn't the most impressive hardware. But at least with that Yale game, and we'll get to the Lowell game a little bit, but the Yale game was one where it's like that's what you needed to do, and you did it.
Yeah, let's talk about that Lowell game. Championship game, again, like you said, it was about the first 10, 11, 12 minutes. No shots for the Huskies, but plenty of chances and shots just going wide. I thought Lowell actually did a really good job keeping the Huskies to the outside. I thought it was a lot of neutral zone play. Overall, the shots even ended 23-17 in favor of Lowell, so not a ton of shots really generated. So I think Lowell kind of sticking with the defensive structure, I thought actually played that fairly well. But it was, some of the breakdowns where Tyson Gross power play goal, gets the opening goal of the game in the first period. And then Grant Deshawn in the second, early in the second, scores shorthanded on a great pass from Berner Miettinen. Mm-hmm. And then Ernest again on the score sheet, like you said, with Thorson and Rode. That was kind of a fun line that was put together that I thought has some possibilities. Now, I think I still would like Bernovic with Rode and Ernest, but I think Thorson as well has really come along over the past couple of series, and I think it kind of I thought that line, especially all weekend, I thought was really a thorn in a lot of the sides, as well as I thought Ashawn's play too. I thought Ashawn's play was incredibly good and really disruptive. But it was kind of another game where he said, I don't know how much this was in doubt, maybe a little bit. When, they score the first, or Lowell scores a little bit later in the third period, about 5 minutes left to go. And you're kind of just like, don't make this close. And they were kind of pressuring at that time. But they are able to get an empty or an extra attacker goal, but only about 3 seconds left to go in the game. So at that time it was pretty much out of hand. But I thought Lowell played a solid game defensively. Structure had a couple of breakdowns that the Huskies capitalized on. Again, our shooting accuracy, I thought, was more to blame than for the shots on goal than a lot of the other, than us not having a lot of opportunities. And maybe that's a credit to Lowell's defensive positioning. But, and I'll say again, it's not like I thought Berzins played poorly, but I just thought there were some rebounds that were kind of kicked out that were a little bit uncharacteristic of him that I've seen in the past. So that was just something that I saw, that the pads were a little bit more active than usual. But overall, again, I thought it was a solid win. Up 3-0 going in the third. Yeah, you think you can coast to a victory. Made it kind of a little interesting, but overall took care of business and ended up getting that Cactus Cup trophy. I'll call it a trophy. So,
yeah, put a pin in that. I'll get back to that. Put a prickle in that cactus. We'll return to that in a second. This was it's weird because they play the ECAC team Yale on Friday, and this is the Hockey East team with Lowell, because Lowell played much more like an ECAC team, I thought, where they were more defensive minded, very conservative offensively. Even, they get that extra attacker goal, but they didn't pull their goalie until under a minute to go, down by 2. Part of that was St. Cloud was keeping the puck in their offensive zone, trapping the Lowell goalie in the net, essentially. But they had opportunities. You're down by 2 I'm thinking at 3 minutes to go, you got to start looking at pulling your goalie at that point. So yeah, they do get the extra attacker goal, but it's 3 seconds to go at that point. Really wasn't worried that they were going to score with 3 seconds to go with the face-off at center ice. So a team that's offensively challenged, kind of like Yale is as well. But I think their defensive structure was a little bit more difficult for St. Cloud to solve or to break through. And we've seen them in years past kind of struggle with this type of play. So it's kind of good to get some practice against it. It's just not a style that we see the NCHC too often. So not surprised that they did struggle to adapt to it, not getting first shot on goal, as you mentioned, until after the first 10 minutes or so of the first period. And they kind of needed to play opportunistic with, or at least cash in on the chances that they got. The shorthanded goals you mentioned was, I think, the biggest play of the game. You go from 1-0 after the first period. Hall takes that penalty, celebrating that goal. So that puts you on the penalty kill in the second period. This is one of those moments where it's a
really
big swing.
Uncharacteristic, dumb penalty by him.
He did take a shot to the back of the neck there from the Lowell guy, but which the refs didn't see. But yeah, it was a little too much of a response by Hall. So puts you on the penalty kill, and that's in a situation where Lowell could tie that game on the power play, coming with fresh ice in the second period. But Werner, as you mentioned, nice 2-on-1 with Ashan, and buries it. You can kind of put that third goal with Ernest. That sort of goal kind of comes out of nowhere too, taking advantage of an opportunity that wasn't exactly like a set play that they were able to convert on. So I think they needed to. They were struggling to solve the defensive setup from Lowell, but they were able to, take advantage of the chances that they were granted by the opponent, and then just kind of weather the storm. Yes, I would have liked to see them put them away a little bit more towards the third period there, but that doesn't even get to a point where Lowell's struggling to pull their goaltender there. You had chances to maybe make it. There was a chance right before Lowell scored their first goal of the game that St. Cloud could have made it 4-0. That would have obviously made it a little bit a more soothing last 5 minutes, let's say. But I like the fact that they kind of needed to, think outside the box a little bit in this game. They had to face a kind of different style, and on the fly, they were able to make the changes necessary to do that. So again, not a team, Lowell, that I would say is a great one. Again, I think they may play that kind of style based on the lack of talent, especially offensively, that they have. But as you mentioned, I think it's a pretty good defensive system they have. And so St. Cloud needed to do some different things in this game. But it's nice that, again, also with the kinds of scoring that we saw this weekend, a little bit of the usual suspects. We saw Gross again getting the first goal here in this game, but then also with a guy like Ashan, guy like Ernest, getting these kind of goal scorers to produce. That's the difference in this game. So we can't just rely on that top line. We've said this, for the last couple of weeks, kind of looking forward to the second half. I'm not saying like this is the formula on how to win games in the second half, just because these two opponents, I think, are just different from the kinds of teams that you're going to see in the conference play. But how they won in terms of spreading the scoring around, and I thought defense too. I don't know if we've really touched on that too much in these two games. I thought the defense on the whole played very well, and yes, you could chalk that up to a Yale and Lowell teams that don't score a ton. Maybe that made their task easier. Not going to argue too much with that, but guys like Loftus, as we mentioned, played really well. Wiley played really well, I thought. So I mean, we had some contributions up and down the roster in each position. Obviously, goaltending, we had Bursons the whole weekend, but offensively and defensively, I thought we had a lot of solid producers this weekend, and it was very good to see.
I'm glad that you brought up the defense because I know we kind of ragged on them all season. But it was you play the teams that are ahead of you or that are on the ice with you. But yeah, I don't think there was even a moment where I was really upset at any of the defense all weekend. The only thing I could say was, Belial, the second goal on Yale, Belial kind of lost his guy. It happens. But overall, I thought he played, I thought he played fine. I thought Loftus actually was, really elevated his game this weekend. I thought he looked really good. I thought Smolinski looked good. Wiley, I think he's always pretty pretty solid back there on defense. So all of them, I think top to bottom, had a really excellent weekend, and it really made it kind of easy for us to kind of skate away with these two victories, even though the 3-2 victory, I think, looks closer than it actually was. But I did also want to bring up, some of the changes that were made on the front half with, we have Ingram not playing either game.
And did we get any word on that? Did they say anything on the broadcast, or
Nope.
is there a McHatton write-up or whatnot that I missed?
I haven't seen anything, and the line chart listed him as a scratch. So I would assume he's still here, still on the team, but Gardner gets both nights. Gardner was there both nights. I don't think he was overly effective. I thought actually Rogers, he didn't factor a point, but I thought there was, he created some chances and really showed some speed out there as well. But obviously we can talk about Bernovic and Gross, and we often do. But I think that Ernest, I thought he had a wonderful weekend, causing disruptions, making some plays, and really kind of showing what he's going to be capable of in the next couple of years. So I was really excited to see that out of him.
Agreed. And I do agree too with your point that Bernovic, I would rather see him with those two, with Rode and Ernest, but at this point it's kind of nitpicking because that top six right there, Gross, Hall, and Bernovic, that line, and then Ernest, Rode, and Thorson have been producing pretty well since they've been put together, or at least this weekend they did. I'm glad you enjoyed Rogers. I didn't really know that line with Gardner too. It's like, Miettinen had a good weekend, but the others, I'm not sure if that's a line that necessarily we're going to see a lot. I don't know if it deserves. We need to keep that line together. Whereas like Ernest, Rode, and Thorson, sure, keep them together if you want, because I thought they had a good weekend. And Ingram, this is baseless speculation, but because he was scratched for the first game of the first half, and that was academic related, correct? So that came out. Now this is a new semester now. Maybe it's like also academic. Maybe he's got to sit out like a first weekend if he's on like academic, double secret probation. I don't know. That's very speculative.
Mr.
Blutarski
has no grade point average.
I don't know what the state of academic probation is at St. Cloud State, and I don't know if I want to know what that is. But because we didn't hear anything injury related, and you'd think,
we can always call Jace Wazlowski and ask him what it is.
We could, we could pick that scab with him, see if he wants to divulge anything. But so I'd feel like, yes, he's still has the 0 goals. Maybe he shouldn't be seen as like a important offensive player on this team, but I think he kind of is. He's been around for a while, drafted player, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You'd think a guy of that stature, someone would have asked, or the coaching staff would have put it out there, a reason for his absence if it was injury related. But I'll take the silence and use that as a conspiracy theory that is also probably wrong. But And again, he's a guy with 0 goals. It's not like
Yeah.
his absence this weekend is this giant grave loss. Sad to say. I wish it was a noticeable loss, but as it was, it gave Rogers a chance and maybe Gardner, maybe one of the two, or maybe they both got 2 games this weekend because of Ingram's absence. But however you slice it, another couple of games without him, and we'll see what his status is going forward. But yeah, that was a weird one. But this Cactus Cup.
Can we put a pin in that 1 second? I just want to put a bow on Ingram.
We're going to put that prickle in it again. Yep.
Now I will say though, because I brought this up a couple of episodes ago and I didn't circle back to it, and I probably should have. When I was talking about Ingram and on the power play, and yeah, he has no goals. He does have 8 assists, and I do see him deferring quite a bit. Now with that, it is frustrating because we saw the talent, especially his sophomore years, of what he can do and can produce, and he just hasn't. But I still think he makes good decisions with the puck, and I think he has the hockey IQ, and I think he's got the talent that it can click. It just hasn't, for whatever reason, for a year and a half. And I still think, even though he doesn't score goals, I still think he's an asset there on the front line, more so than a Rosborough or even a Gardner at this point. Gardner I was really unimpressed with this weekend. And I thought this was kind of an opportunity for him to really show I deserve to be in this lineup. And I don't think he really ran with it. Especially like Lowell, I thought would have been a team where his style of play would suit it a little bit more, and I just didn't see that out of him. So yeah, I am interested to see what happens with Ingram, kind of going forward. And yeah, maybe it's just baseless speculation, but 2 games for him not being out there was a little bit of an eye opener. Also, by the way, Flow Sports.
Yeah, I guess if the question
did a really good job. I thought Grant Fuhr was the color commentator. So to have hockey royalty like that on there, and it was a really nice I thought presentation, and it kind of with all of the hockey also, as a reminder to everyone who got Flow for the weekend, go ahead and cancel your subscription. But there's just so much on there. I kind of wish maybe NCHC TV would just go to Flow, because I didn't have any issues with that or any of the other AHL games that I decided to flip on for a little bit afterwards to catch, Bakersfield Condors. I think I watched a little bit of their game. But it was overall, I thought it was they've just got a lot of stuff there, a lot of money. It's more expensive, obviously, than NCHC, but I think kind of bang for your buck wise, I think you definitely get it.
And they still get USHL games on there, correct?
Yep.
I mean, that would be like the biggest benefit. If I were to get Flow, would be to watch some USHL, just kind of see like Husky pipeline players, check out some of their junior action. Yeah, CCHA used to be on there. They're not on there now. It's what Bidco is their package now. But you still get Atlantic Hockey, I believe, still goes through Flow. So you got a couple of different leagues. But the Nick Gizmondo was the play-by-play guy. I only know that because he was at the Applebee's and he was really looking for people to talk to. And
is that right?
Very well known that he was the guy that announced the Cactus Cup, and he chatted us up almost to a fault. Like we were and he was very much, I'm a big story guy, and all the names that I'm going to drop, and my buddy Grant, so I very well knew that Grant Fuhr was the color guy. And the clips that I listened back to, it sounded like they were a quality team. He was play-by-play guy for the Blackhawks for a couple of years. He gave us his entire resume. So I didn't have to fact check.
You know his whole story, huh?
studio host for the Golden Knights and the Kraken. He did Olympic work. He's got a story about Golden Knights owner Bill
that
Foley.
Applebee's
That's
was hopping.
not as interesting as he thinks it is, but he's got Gary Bettman. He's dropping his name. He's dropping Eddie Olczyk. He's calling him Edzo. It was a lot. It was a lot to keep up with. So yes, I'm very well aware, almost too aware of the broadcast talents that were on display this weekend.
If it accounts for anything, they were really hyping up the Huskies all weekend. So
well, it's great. They should have been. They were the Cactus Cup, dominant Cactus Cup champs. Baby. Yeah.
So
can we now talk about the Cup?
Take the prickle out.
It's called the Cactus Cup, and it ain't a cup. That's my first problem
not a cup
with it
at all.
It was right there, and not even that, but it's like this plaque that looks like it's probably the same plaque that Acrisure, the sponsor of the arena, I don't think sponsored this event, but it looks like the salesman of the month at the insurance agency, like the award
it's kind of like
they would give them.
5-year sales or sales, like, thank you for your service for the company. Here's 5-year recognition. That's kind of definitely what the cup looked, or the cup. Not a cup.
Again, yeah. I mean, again, you were the one to come up with the event and the name of it. You'd think if you're going to name it the Cactus Cup and not the Cactus Plaque, that you would have at least commissioned a cup to have been made. And we got cactus in the name. You could have done so much with that. The arms of the cactus. You could have had 3 cups with like different arms of the cactus. So missed opportunity in both cases, both parts of your name of the tournament there. But then also when you had the photo of the team with the, putting in the scare quotes, the Cactus Cup in the center of it, it had a real Stonehenge Spinal Tap thing going on where it was so small. Could they at least have gotten the extra large insurance agent of the month plaque? Because this one like barely went to knee height. And when you had the whole team huddle around it, it was kind of comical. So I just, event was fine, but you got to step up the actual trophy presentation, production value there, in my opinion.
It definitely, like, the first thing my wife pointed out as the game wrapped up was like, why is it so small? and then Clara the next morning had hockey at Sports Arena East in Sauk Rapids, and so she had hockey practice there, and Teresa was looking at some of the trophies that are in that showcase. She was like, any one of these would have done fine. Like,
correct.
Just have something that is of some kind of substantial size or something, and instead you get this kind of rinky-dink. I don't know. Maybe it's shrinkflation, and it's all coming down, and it's affecting the size of these mid-year tournaments. Maybe that's something I got to look into.
Maybe it's made of gold.
Cloud coverage article about the size.
Oh, I'll dig into it.
Dig into that.
And if you're gonna see, I'm gonna try to do your segues here, folks, and know that we got to do a POW. But this is one of those rare weekends where there was an official POW. There was an in the building POW. Did you hear who the MVP of the tournament was?
The Bernovic.
And that it was Austin Bernovic. And when they were doing like the drum roll, please, Buddy and I are like, could it be? I mean, Loftus. We're thinking Gross. I even thought Berzins. 2 games started, 2 wins, and they go with Bernovic. I don't know if he would have been in my top 5 of MVPs for St. Cloud that weekend. So that's my segue.
Yeah, when they announced the player of the tournament, Austin Bernovic, and I was like, really? I mean, I thought he played really well. I thought he played solid. Obviously scored some goals. But when you look at the body of work as a whole, I definitely would have had them a little bit lower on the list.
he might have been my player of the game on Friday. Saturday, I think he was a little quiet. So maybe they did the voting after Friday night, and they just didn't change it after Saturday. Again, a nitpick. I was thinking, well, maybe so he's like the Anaheim draft pick, maybe because it's somewhat local. Like Anaheim's like an hour and a half away on the highway. Maybe they're like, oh, we want to, it's potentially a Southern California player here in the future. We want to keep it somewhat in-house. Again, my conspiracy theory brain is working overtime here. So yeah, again, not to say that was necessarily like way off. He did score the 2 goals on Friday, it wasn't top of mind. So who's yours? Who'd be your pile? Because I always go first on this. I want to throw it to you. I threw out the kind of the ones that I had on my mind.
That's true. That's true. Because you took my segue, so then I go first. I get it.
Thank you.
I am torn between 2. I do wonder if Berzins would have got it if he wouldn't let in that goal with 3 seconds left. But
if they're going to vote for Brnovik, I don't think they were going to vote for Berzins.
Fair enough. But I'm kind of going for 2. And both of them for different reasons. One of them I think is going to be, well, both of them are going to be important, but one of them I think is going to be massive for depth scoring. And if we can get him rolling and this line rolling, we need something more than the gross Brnovik line to get going. Hall, who was unusually quiet as well. But I don't think he played poorly, just didn't show up nearly as much on the score sheet. But, it was nice to see Werner Miettinen get involved in the play. I thought he made some really good plays out there. But the forward I'm looking at is Ernest. 2 goals on the weekend, both big goals. But also overall his play, I thought he was tenacious. He was on the puck. I thought he made really good decisions. Overall, I really liked his game. And then you talked about him on the defense as well with Finn Loftus. I thought he had multiple point games both weekends. So those, and again, solid defensively too. I thought he played an incredible game. So I'm torn between those 2. I don't think I've given it to either of them this year. I might have given one to Ernest earlier this year, but I don't think so.
You did.
I did. Okay.
You gave it to him for the Anchorage weekend back in October.
Okay. But for how hard I've been ragging on the defense, I think over the past couple of months, I do think I think Loftus deserves it. So maybe it's a little bit easy because you look at the points and he was able to rack it up this weekend. But I think overall, I really liked his play. I thought he was really solid out there. And if he can continue to play at that level, again, I know who the opponents are, but if this gives him some confidence to play at this, elevate his game for this stretch, I think it's going to be a good sign for the Huskies going forward. So I'm going to go with Finn Loftus as my pal.
It's a good pick, and your little deliberation there mirrors a lot of my thoughts in terms of it's nice to have a weekend where we have several candidates to choose from. So. Loftus is one of those guys too where the Henriks injury opened up opportunities for a couple of players. Like Belial might not be playing like at all. He might be like the healthy scratch most of the games that he's appeared in. Yeah. Now he's getting more and more ice time. He's one immediate beneficiary of that. The other, I think, is Loftus. And from we're going to take your minutes from more token minutes to impact minutes. And he didn't rack up the ice time this weekend that he did in NCHC. He played towards the end of the first half, like that Denver game we mentioned, the second Denver game where he logs 25 minutes of ice time, according to CHN. Mm-hmm. So not only is he securely in this lineup and not just playing, but playing key minutes. And he stepped up, and now he's adding some offense to the game. as well. So, yeah, a great weekend for him. And he's really, in the last month, let's say, has really turned it on. And, I don't think he's a perfect player. He is still he's young. I mean, this is his sophomore year and a freshman year at UMass where he barely played. So, I mean, he played some games, but you look at his ice time last year in those games, paltry minutes for the Minutemen, ironically enough. But he's making up for that. It's clear that he's making the most of the opportunity that's being granted here. So, yeah, great to see him. I would probably pick him as my defenseman of the weekend for the Huskies. Ernest is another great pick. I mean, I will say this is where maybe tracking the POWs, there's a downside to that. I think that Gross is the best player on this team every game. Like the 2 games this week, whenever he touches the puck, you notice him right away. It's the grit, it's the determination, and then it's the finishing, and it's the putting up points. Another 4-point weekend. He's got an 8 game point streak. He's already up to 27 points this year. Yeah, he will be gone after the end of this year as long as he avoids injury, which is a good thing. That means that the Huskies are going to do as good as where Gross takes this team. I think it's let's just sit back and enjoy the ride a little bit, or at least appreciate it as it's happening here. This is a special season that Gross is having. So he's one of those guys where I could give it to him on several of these weeks, and 3 out of the last 5 POWs I've given to him, and I've given him to once before that. So 4 times this year I've given it to Gross. So just in a sense of wanting to spread it around, I'll give it to Ernest. And I don't say that to like diminish his accomplishments. I think that you summarized it very well. That line with now Thorson, but especially the pairing with Rode, which they have kept that that duo together most of the season. Again, we've seen flashes of it, mostly not involving NCHC teams. But I think the more that they develop a chemistry together and the more that they can produce goals, and Ernest too has a kind of a feistiness to his game that I like. It somewhat mirrors Thorson. They are different players, but he's got a little bit of grit in him as well. He's not afraid to mixing up in the corners, behind the net, that kind of thing. I think opponents take note of that. They're aware of the peskiness that he brings to the table. So yes, if that line, yes, we'd probably like to see Brnovic with those 2 again somewhere down the line, but this line was effective this weekend, and Ernest was kind of the finisher of the group. Thorson and Rode, deserve a little bit of a hand in the power that I'm going to give to Ernest, but it's good. It's a very good sign to see the scoring kind of trickle down to these kinds of sources. So yeah, like I said, it's nice to have several candidates here that we're considering, but I think Loftus and Ernest are 2 good pals this weekend.
Yeah. Going back to Gross, I think I can't. Like, can you think of any other Husky who might be as like quietly contributing all of the time? Like when I think of like he doesn't get a lot of publicity. I would say from a lot of the other, the rest of the NCHC. I would say I think there were a lot of other picks. But I mean, I think he's very quietly 8th in the country in scoring, with 27 points in 20 games. All of that also with the face-off percentage, CHN is 63%. Is that correct? That's ridiculous.
It's been above 60 all year. And it was leading the NCAA for a while. I can check where he is now. Just keep going.
But so, I mean, so we look at that, and it's like I just think of Tyson Gross as I kind of under the radar, or really quietly, it's just kind of a dominant force on this team. And he's going to be one of those guys that is going to, really show up year in and year out. And to see him already at 27 points on the season, it's heck of an accomplishment. I would say I can't say enough, good things about him and his play. And like you said, yeah, there's a reason why you've given so much to him. And this is his second, I think, 8-game point streak on the season. I think there's only 2 games this year that he hasn't registered a point. So it's not like he's feasting on, loading up on 5 or 7 or 6-point weekends against lesser competition, but like consistently he's always in the mix. So it's I think he's just kind of one of those guys. It's like you're not going to get the flashes from him, but at the same time other teams are going to play him as like, geez, this guy's annoying to play against. Already beat last season as well in points, from 25 points now to 27.
Yeah, so started the year on a 9-game point streak.
9-game. Okay, so we got Omaha yet.
Yeah, and now on an 8-game streak, and just between those 2 streaks, a 0, 2 points, and 0 points. So as you mentioned, just 2 games with a donut this year, at least a point in every one of them. And nationally, he's second. Among guys that have taken 100 or more chances, he is second in the country with a 63% flat face-off percentage. The only guy ahead of him, I love this guy's name because whenever I see it, so it's Jonathan Castagna from Cornell. Keep in mind that Gross has taken like 200 more chances than Castagna. Whenever I hear the name, I always say, can't stand you. It's it's a very inside baseball Seinfeld reference, but can't stand you is the nationwide leader at 64.5. But again, Gross has taken like double the amount of chances that he has. So it's, and he's won the most face-offs out of anybody in the country. So yeah, it's all the stats, either it comes from face-offs or just points. He's among the nationwide leaders in very important categories. And not only that, I mean, you're kind of mentioning under the radar. I mean, he wears a C. I think it was in the Denver series where I kind of put it out there that he is the captain, kind of forgetting that there are 3 C wearers on this team, co-captain. But I think that it's clear to me, like, he is the true captain of this team. The team sort of feeds off of Gross and his energy. And he's got a demeanor on the ice. He's always sort of intense, but it's never like, you can tell it's not like he's not trying to like overdo it or fake it. It's authentic, I guess, is the best way to put it. But I think a team like in that sense, he reminds me of LeBlanc. But I think he's got more offensive skill than LeBlanc does. LeBlanc won the Hobie. I'm not saying that Gross is Hobie, but we're talking about those numbers. He's putting himself in that position. I mean, if he continues on this pace or he just doesn't take games off scoring, and he's winning 17 out of 22 draws like he did on Saturday this weekend, and St. Cloud continues to win, that's not going to be that wild of or at least even NCHC player of the year competition. Like, we're getting to that stage of the season with Gross. Let's just hope that it continues on. But at this point, just kind of sitting back and marveling at a guy putting up a special season, and it's great to see.
For some reason, I don't have his stats out in front of me, but I kind of want to see how he compares in stats to Kevin Fitzgerald.
That would be a good comp.
Let's see. His last year, 17 goals and 19 assists, 36 goals. So 36 points. So he's well on pace to be over that.
And that was Fitzgerald?
Fitzgerald. Yep.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's a good comparison.
They do it slightly different ways. I always thought Kevin Fitzgerald, when he got the puck down low, it was in the net. Like, he was just magic when he got the puck down low. Gross plays a little bit different type of game, where he can score from multiple different ways and a little bit more physical. But
he's got more. I was just more thinking. Yeah, I think Gross is the more skilled player. Different body type, but more from like just the compete level and sort of the leadership. That's where I see a good comparison between the two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much so. So, all right, let's transition over to Omaha. Back to conference action against Omaha, who has had kind of a rough go of it this season. A little bit up and down start to the season. Ended up October up 4-2, but November was pretty bad for them. Only 3 wins, swept handily by Western Michigan, handily by North Dakota, split with Yale, lost 2-1, and then won the next night 3-1. Just off of sweep against, got swept at Cornell. So this is a team I think the Huskies can really pounce on. And this is, I think, a golden opportunity for them to get 6 points on the weekend. Again, like you said, Omaha, the arena, it's not been kind to them. And not only that, but, in the last 7 opportunities, St. Cloud only has 1 win, outright win in the last 7 games against Omaha. So it's a big weekend. Omaha hasn't had a lot of good success, this year with goals, only 2.75 goals per game average with a 3.65. You kind of thought Lacozi was going to be kind of the stalwart there at net, but he has been struggling this year with a 3.56 goals against average, and has kind of been demoted and splitting time with Cohen, who has fared a little bit better, but not much. I believe in the preview, season preview, I was talking about how Gabinet really took a big swing, going not only to the opening up for the Canadian players to come in, but the U Sports players. And I thought that was going to be a decision that burns him. And it turns out that has. They got a pretty decent power play, 22%, but their penalty kill is about as bad as ours at 72.7%. So I think this is an opportunity for our power play to kind of feast on that if they end up getting into penalty troubles. So I think this is kind of a make or break weekend of, if we believe St. Cloud can make a good push towards being a bubble team, this is the weekend where they have to take care of business against Omaha.
Yeah, it's an important weekend. I don't know if I'm going to say you got to sweep. If you want to make a series run at the tournament, a sweep here would do wonders towards that. Omaha right now, 42nd in the NPI. They are the last place team in NCHC when it comes to NPI. They're still ahead of Miami in the literal NCHC standings. But in terms of the NPI nationally, Omaha is the worst right now in NCHC team. Latcozy was struggling. He is hurt, so it's not more a demotion. He was hurt in their game against North Dakota in December, a lower body injury, I think, which is why this Dawson Cowan has been getting all of the action the last 6 or 7 games. But as you mentioned, Cowan's numbers have been better than Latcozy's have this year. Latcozy had a couple of real rough starts, 2 games where he gave up 7 goals this season. He was an interesting guy because St. Cloud seemed to have his number at St. Cloud. He'd play better against the Huskies in Omaha, but St. Cloud would fare decently against him, and I would have agreed, and I think I did in our season preview, that he might be the best goalie in the conference, at least coming into the season. Thought that he would be able to steal some wins for them, like he's done in the last couple of years. So that strategy of going with a lot of Canadian guys and a lot of U Sports guys and some others directly from WHL. I think they got some Q guys as well. I would have said on that preview show, it's not that, I mean, I picked him to be fifth. I knew that the bottom half of the conference was going to be pretty tight. So it was kind of a matter of picking names out of a hat or teams out of a hat. Some of it was a reverse jinx because I feel like I'm always down on Omaha. So this year I'll be up on Omaha. Maybe my reverse jinx is working because they're at 8th right now. But it was just an unknown. It's more so like I was interested in keeping track of Omaha this year because you'd see that as like a weather vane. Like, how well is this? Does this strategy, is it going to pay off for Omaha this year? Because if it does, we might see other teams focus on U Sports, that route, now that it's open. If it's not, then this might go the way of the dodo bird, that sort of route to NCAA. I think it's too early to put down a verdict on whether or not it's been successful or not. Yes, they are 8th place in the conference, but the standings of the NCHC are, we've still got 14 games. Everyone's got 14 games left, except Duluth. They've just got 12 games left, but they're just 4 points out of 5th. So, I mean, the way that the results go this weekend, they could move up 2-3 spots in the standings. It is still somewhat early, but this is a team, as you mentioned, gets swept by Cornell this past weekend out in Cornell. 2 trips to Ivy schools this year for Omaha. That's a little unusual. So they're not exactly, whereas the Huskies will go into this series as a reigning mid-season tournament champion. Omaha returns home with their tail between their legs and maybe a little bit more vulnerable. And this roster too, I mean, they've been struggling to score. I mean, as you mentioned, guys like Gross, Hall and Bernovic, all point per game players, top point getter for the Mavericks right now. Luke Woodworth at 14 points in 20 games. Their top goal scorer is Maxime Pellerin with 6 goals, but he hasn't scored. He scored 1 goal since November 1st. So he kind of limited most of his, or he condensed most of his scoring to the first month of the season. He's kind of been on a cold stretch. And that's your top goal scorer of the team, just with 6. And so I think they struggle to score offensively, and that's kind of the sorts of teams that we saw this past weekend in Palm Springs, where Yale and Lowell were kind of in the same boat, struggling to score. So, and it's just weird. Like, I was going down some of these names yesterday, kind of in preparation of Omaha, like this Trevor Wong. So they brought him in from U Sports. He's 22. He'll be 23 in May. So with a couple of these guys they brought in, they're overage guys for the NCAA level. So they're not getting 4 years of eligibility. They're only granted, in Wong's case, he's got 3 years of eligibility. He essentially comes in as a sophomore. But so 2 years ago, he puts up 100 points in the WHL as a 20-year-old. Then he ages out of that league. But so then he doesn't get a pro deal, doesn't go to the AHL or even the ECHL. He's got to go to U Sports after he ages out of the WHL. And he has a decent year at U Sports, but not enough to get anything more than an offer to go to NCAA at Omaha. And he's got 10 points this year. A decent year, I suppose, on an offensively challenged team. But it's like one of those 9 points. I'm sorry, 9.
9.
It was overdoing it for him. But it's like one of those things like, so how do I contextualize a guy with 100 points in the WHL? Isn't that like a pretty darn good league? It's one of the major junior leagues. It isn't the OHL. It's not the Q, but it's a pretty darn good league, right? But he can't get a job anywhere else other than landing on a U Sports roster last year, and now he's kind of languishing in Omaha. It's not like he's making hay in the NCHC. So it's one of those ones where I'm looking at that like top 10 list of WHL scorers from that year. It's like, so how good is this league? It's one of those things that how you convert those stats from Canadian juniors to NCAA level. It can be a crapshoot doing that from like USHL to NCAA. I think even more so because I'm still somewhat much more unfamiliar with how to convert those numbers to the NCAA level than I am with the American junior system. So it's just like one of those things that, you can see a guy like that. Boy, he put up a great year in juniors a couple years ago. And he's kind of coming in as a 22-year-old. You should think that he's got a little bit of experience that might suit him well at the NCAA level, but it just hasn't clicked, at least in the first half of his first year at this level. So a lot of those guys, they had a couple of draft players that came in among this 10 or 12 players that they brought in from either directly the CHL leagues or U Sports. Again, the jury's still out. The early signs, if we're checking in on the jury room, it maybe not looking so hot for Omaha, but we've mentioned before, we've gone into Omaha series in the last couple of years saying, okay, time for the Huskies to get fat. It's Omaha. And then we come back that next show and we're like, what the hell happened? And like last year when they got swept out there, or in 2022 when they got swept out there. So you can't take them lightly. But I almost kind of think, just looking at how this team has struggled to score, maybe this Cactus Cup and the two teams you saw there might have been the best kind of warm-up to get ready for Omaha. So I don't know. For me, it's like at least get a win. You got to at least get a split. You can't get swept by this team. And give me a win on Friday, and let's go for a gravy game on Saturday. Sniff some blood. If you see that this team is vulnerable and ready to be beaten, this is one of those things, like intangibles from this Huskies team that I haven't quite seen yet this year, this killer instinct. I'd love to see it this weekend, especially you got Duluth weekend after. And like this weekend kind of created some positive momentum. Let's keep that momentum going. Let's take this 3-game winning streak and extend that. I'd love to see it. But I'm not going to say it's like a do or die. But at least give me a win, because I think this is a team you should at least be able to beat once.
I guess, like, I don't know. What do you consider do or die? Like, I'm not going to say the season's over if we don't sweep. But I think if we're going to be seriously considered as a bubble team, we need to take care of business this weekend.
I just think it's too early for do or die.
Sure, the NPI and the math can work out where we still can get in, but it's like we need to, like, I need to prove that in January, historically, there are a lot of things stacked up against this team. And we need to overcome that to be a serious contender for being on a bubble. And that's where I would like to be.
I get that. I'm just coming from the perspective of you drop a game this weekend, you've still got 12 games in conference play against all teams that are more highly ranked than Omaha. Sure. This isn't like we play in the CCHA and we only get these opportunities to play, to play teams where we can really gain in the pairwise. We don't play those types of games too often. So we really got to take advantage when we get that opportunity. First of all, obviously, as I said, Omaha doesn't have a great NPI rating. But you're going to you've got Denver on the horizon. You've got Duluth next weekend. You've got North Dakota later this season. Even teams like Miami and Arizona State are on the top half of the pairwise or NPI. So you've got all these opportunities to be able to make up. If you do drop one of these games, you can make it up later in the season. So I'll reserve do or die to last weekend of the regular season and, we're hanging on to 12th.
Sure.
And if we get swept, we're going to tank. So it's just a little too early for me to say do or die, but
Gotcha.
I don't mind setting the bar high.
So I was just looking over the last 25 goals that Omaha has scored against St. Cloud, which dates back to January 26th of 2024. I could probably go back a little bit further. But you were just going back about, looking over their roster and, it's just a lot of turnover. And I only see the only 2 goal scorers that ever scored against us. And that's Rollwagon and LaPinta. And LaPinta doesn't have a goal this season. So like this just goes to show that this is a new type of Omaha team that hasn't been able to get it together offensively. And that needs to continue for the Huskies. And I really would like them to show, I want them as the St. Cloud State team to show us that they're ready to make this jump in January, month that hasn't been good to us, and to just keep this rolling. And that's kind of what I want to see out of this Husky team. I think we've got a lot of things in our favor, but we just got to get on the road and get it taken care of. And I am pretty optimistic. I think it's going to be a split plus this weekend. And I think anything less than that, I will be a little bit down on this team, even a split. Maybe that's a little harsh, depending on how that split is. But I'm looking for a split plus this weekend.
You're usually good on those split plus picks. At least you've been good. I think that's what you.
Yeah, that's my
picked
default.
for the
I guess maybe that's my 3-2 us show predictions.
It's nice because it's not like, you're not like drinking the Kool-Aid, like sweet baby. But it's also not, it's a little bit better than just split, which is kind of that's kind of my default is split. So it's like in the middle ground of it's slightly optimistic. It's not like overly optimistic. It's not cardinal black colored glasses. So I get the psychology, but I'll go with my safe pick and say split. I'll say they win on Friday and lose on Saturday. But something about the House of Horrors that Baxter has become in the last, 4 or 5 years for them. It's hard for me to just say it's going to be. And if we're talking about, this vulnerable Omaha team and they're kind of limping in, you better believe that this team, if they don't want like a January junk kind of slide to set in here, you would think that they would be kind of extra motivated to come back and, put to bed any sort of slump that they've had. I would assume that they're going to come in this weekend kind of hot and wanting to prove something. And, they get swept this weekend, Miami could jump them. They could fall into last place after this weekend too. So it might be more do or die for them than it is St. Cloud this weekend. So
yeah, that's true.
Again, take it seriously and just one game at a time, and all other cliches that I'm not even going to mention here, but I just want to see, again, just the good hockey and talking about like how I liked, at least on the Friday Yale game, I liked that we didn't see any sort of rust, bad first period. Yeah. Even the one on Saturday, which wasn't a great first period, or at least first half of first period, I felt like they had chances. You said if they could have hit a net in that first 10 minutes, they would have gotten a couple of shots on goal. So, we didn't see the kinds of starts that we saw kind of flare up with a little bit of regularity towards the last part of the first half. Well, that was a good sign. Let's continue to see that here in Omaha this weekend.
Very much so. All right, let's we had a giveaway. I believe we had the women's giveaway. Did we have some entries? Did we have a winner for the women's?
Do have a winner, and congratulations to Michael S. Of Robbinsdale. he is the winner of.
Hey.
It was his choice. The Ohio State series this weekend. He decided to go to the Saturday game, bringing the whole family, and sounds like some little ones, some tykes are in tow to go to that game. I don't know. Maybe it'll be their first women's game that they're going to. I'm not sure. We didn't get into all the specifics, but he's got the tickets in hand. I sent him over, and he's excited to go get a little family time out with the Huskies. So congratulations. Thank you for entering the contest. He's entered several of the podcasts. So that's what it should show you. The more that you enter,
the better the
your
chance.
name will get picked eventually. Yep. So let's keep it going. We've got a men's giveaway coming up. We've got conference rival, the last year of the conference rival, Minnesota Duluth, coming to St. Cloud. This will not be an every year for sure home date for St. Cloud in years to come. Now that St. Thomas is their designated rival in the soon to expand NCHC. So we've got the Bulldogs on tap for the 16th and 17th. We've got the 2 seats right on center ice for the Saturday, January 17th home game against Duluth. As all the Saturday games are, it is a 6:00 start local time. So it'll be 6:00 on Saturday, next Saturday, the 17th. And what we do here, if you're new to this, you've been listening so far into the show, we're going to reward you for listening by giving you a passcode. Then you're going to email that passcode to our show email account, huskieshockeypodcast@gmail.com. You're going to send that code by this Sunday. We got to get a couple of days to make sure that you can go and work out logistics. So by Sunday at noon, you want to email this passcode that we're going to give out right now. And we had fun last time, just kind of coming up on the fly with the passcode. So we've got Duluth. We like to sometimes tie it in with the opponent. What do you think of when you think of Duluth?
Well, obviously, I think of Fitkers. That's kind of my go-to hotel and area scooter on the boardwalk there. Really, overall, just a great area. I do have to say, I really love going up to Duluth. Can be kind of expensive there in the summer, but it's definitely worth a weekend trip. They've got a lot of sightseeing spots, a lot of good breweries there, and they have an old Chicago. And the old Chicago that I used to frequent here in St. Cloud closed because allegedly the company didn't want to keep paying some Minnesota taxes or whatever. There was like that was financially doing well, and I think I was keeping that afloat because I have done the World Beer Tour a lot of times there at Old Chicago, and there's not many left of it in the state, but my go-to pizza order there was a double decoroni with cream cheese. That was my go-to pizza order at Old Chicago, and they've got one there up there. And how about double decoroni?
I feel like
too much.
When he said Fitkers, that would be a spelling. Not that it's a tough word to spell, but I feel like that you could slip up in a bad for HR.
And for sure, double decoroni would be a little bit too much.
I'm thinking the same thing. Plus, I think our show partners, our sponsors, really wouldn't be pleased if we're giving other companies some key real estate with passcodes.
I forgot about that. I forgot about our sponsors.
How about we just keep it generic? They don't have a trademark on Lake Superior, right? So it is the natural air conditioning of Duluth. So let's go Superior. Okay. Superior is the passcode.
There we go.
And again, you're gonna send that passcode Superior, SUPERIOR. It's super superior. You're going to send that passcode to huskieshockeypodcast@gmail.com by Sunday, this Sunday, which is January 11th. Make it noon Central Time. Send it in by then. I'll send out a reminder tweet if you want. Andrew SSUHHP on X. But I shouldn't have to do that. I'm expecting when this thing drops that we're going to get some submissions pretty quickly because
I think so.
Duluth and St. Cloud's always entertaining tilt. And as I said, this is not going to be a yearly occurrence anymore after this year between these two teams in St. Cloud. So we'll preview the actual games next show. But we need a little bit of time, a little lead time to do the ticket giveaway. So again, by Sunday at noon, huskieshockeypodcast@gmail.com. Send in the passcode Superior for your chance to win 2 free tickets, premium chairback tickets for that Saturday game against Duluth.
I also Superior right across, so a rival also of Duluth.
Well, I am using Superior in the Lake Superior sense, not Superior, Wisconsin.
Gotcha. Well, if anyone has a chance,
that's actually
to go
almost
to the
better.
Anchor
Right?
Bar,
No, I think I am using it in the Wisconsin sense. That's
there you
just
go.
for
you got to go with the rival, another rival of Duluth.
Anchor Bar is the
ever
best
end
of
up
the
going to
Superior
Duluth
bars too.
Yeah, you end up going to the Duluth area, go over to Superior, and check out the Anchor Bar. Bring cash. I think I've said that before on the podcast, but their burgers, it was absolutely excellent. It was dive bar type of aesthetic, nautical theme, but also incredibly good food. Highly recommend. I made a funny joke years ago that still sticks out in my head about, I can't remember what I was doing. I think I was drunk playing Guitar Hero or something.
No,
and yeah, right. Shocker. That's college. I was drunk playing Guitar Hero once, we were playing drunk Mario Tennis, which you don't want to get into drunk Mario Tennis, but that's a story for a different time. But my buddy Art, he went ahead and he rocked a song, and he was like, he was as well, and he just goes, "Yeah, you're all insuperior to me." Like he was supposed to say inferior, but he said insuperior. And I said, "Insuperior, really? You're only insuperior if in Duluth when it floods." And I thought that was the funniest thing I've ever said in my life. And it just got crickets. And I'm like, are you serious? Wow. That is a hilarious joke.
Nobody if Art didn't know what the word, if he couldn't keep inferior, and if he was bungling that, he's not going to get the art of that joke. Pun intended.
Apparently not. But
it
was a room for 6-7 people there. We were all hanging out, and it just that bombed. And I'm like, why did that bomb? It was such a good job. Still to this day, I think about it. It's like, God, nobody laughed at that. So it hurts.
Well, I'm sure somebody laughed. Somebody laughed right now when you said the story here. You're just like the play-by-play guy who at the Applebee's. He's just telling all the stories, and everybody was just hooting and hollering.
Get it in between name drops, right? So, so I mean, yeah. So with like you said, send in that passcode. Duluth. We'll see if we see the plants. If all of them are in full force after we had an injury there at the World Juniors, and U.S. bows out there in early fashion in the quarterfinal round. Lackluster tournament for them, but as we were talking with Jake on our pre-show, is the goaltending and the defense a little bit thin, and I think that's kind of ended up being their downfall. Were you able to watch any of those games?
Not the Finland game, because we would have been in the Cactus Cup. We were in Cactus Cup mode at that point.
Sure enough.
Which was a lot of hockey going on, and it was hard to keep everything straight. But and it was a tough draw. You didn't expect to get Finland right off the bat there, so it was a tough draw. But I don't think they would have done any better against Canada or Czechia either. So it was a field where I think it was wide open, but it just the talent just wasn't there for the U.S. this year. Well, it's not going to be there every year, I don't think, but disappointing in that they were hosting the event and weren't able to at least even play for a medal. That was definitely a disappointment.
But do you remember who I picked for the champion?
Did you pick Sweden?
I picked Sweden, and
you
sure
would
enough,
you collect your prize winnings.
I'll collect it from Jake Baskin, actually, because he said he has a rule that he never picked Sweden in gold medal, and it has proven very well for him in the past. But this was the year that Sweden finally gets the monkey off their back, and they're able to win it. And I'm just happy that I predicted it, so I got one right.
I mean, it's gutsy taking Sweden, but good on you.
Yep.
Do they no? It's in Canada next year. Does Sweden get it in a couple of years? I was trying to look at the upcoming hosts, but I mean, Czechia impressed as well. Shout out to them. I did watch the first period here before we were recording, and I was rooting for them. It was a great game with Canada, and then yesterday, but was not to be.
No, exactly. So let's switch over to the women. As Michael S. is got tickets, bringing the family. I have hockey practice. I think my son's hockey practice goes till about 1:45. So I might be a little fashionably late, but I'll probably go and just give my kids a bunch of husky dogs and candy and have them be happy. So if you run into me, definitely say hi. But anyway, Ohio State, big tilt here for the Huskies, as they had an exhibition game that I was not able to attend to against St. Thomas, and I have absolutely zero idea what happened in that exhibition game.
Same.
So allegedly it happened, like not even from St. Thomas's account, our account, like just crickets. So I don't know what happened. I mean, there were some pictures, I think, allegedly. And
I think it took place. I think
okay.
It existed,
there's something that happened. Good.
I think I can't say for 100% sure.
So right now, St. Cloud is sitting at 6 in the WCHA, quite a bit behind, 12 points behind Minnesota Duluth for 4th, which is really what we're gunning for here. Ohio State sitting up with 32 points, second in the league to Wisconsin. Has been on an absolute tear all season. Got swept by Wisconsin 2-1 and then 6-1 in kind of a shocker, but able to turn around and beat Penn State 5-1 and 4-1. I believe, did we have some kind of prop bet on that? I was really looking forward to seeing that series and just seeing what Penn State brings to the table and see how well they can compete with you get to Ohio State and you're playing with the big players there. And Ohio State seemingly had a pretty easy time taking care of it. But what was the prop bet? Do you have that in front of you? I guess I forgot.
I kind of gave you one because I had said prior to this that Ohio State was going to beat Penn State by 3 in both games, which is what happened, 5-1 and 4-1 respectively. Yep. And then I said an over under. I think I just said 6, and then you're kind of like wavering, and then I said it at 5.5, and you're going, I'll go over total margin of victory for the 2 games. And I just went under just to keep it spicy. So even though I kind of put it on the record that I thought they were going to win 3 goal, at least by 3 goals in each game, I'll give you that one for a win. Although we also had another prop bet about how many wins Penn State was going to win last week, because they had those two games and then the single game against Cornell. What was that, Tuesday or Wednesday of last week? You said that they were going to win 0 games. I said that I'd say that they'd beat Cornell, which they did. 1-0 with a late power play goal. Only goal scored. So I won that one. You won the OSU margin of victory prop bet. So we're even.
A power play goal with about 4.5 left to go in the game was now. I will say that even though it was such a low scoring 1-0 affair that I know Cornell is used to, shots were 35-32. But then I remember it's Penn State's shot keeper, which can comically inflate the shots, or at least they do on the men's side. So I bet. So I'm going to assume that's what happened here as well. But
that scorekeeper might be getting some competition from the Lindenwood scorekeeper, who, if you saw that this weekend, made some news. Canisius went in there and beat
70?
Lindenwood on Saturday, even though Lindenwood had 75 shots on goal. Now, that would have been a Flow Sports game. I don't know if you were able to catch any of that, but it was like 34 shots on goal in the third period alone. Something tells me that is a little inflated, but if not, hey, congrats to the Canisius goaltender there. You really worked for that win.
I mean, if that's a Flow Sports game, I'm going to have to check it out, just because I don't
check
think
it
I've
out.
ever
Please
seen
do.
a 34 shot period.
And 75 shots in a regulation game is insane. And to be randomly Canisius against Lindenwood seems odd to me. I guess I'm in that conspiratorial mindset today. It's like 3 separate conspiracy theories that I brought up here. But yeah, if you want to do some intel there, dig into the Zapruder film of the Flow Sports feed. Let me know if you felt like that was a legitimate 75 shots on goal or not. But that was just one of those ones, like, did they have a fat finger kind of typo on the shots on goal tabulation? But anyway, we were talking about Penn State. We were talking about Penn State women's hockey, and then somehow we got on to Lindenwood men. Let's get back to the women.
Yeah, let's get back on track here. Everything's off the rails. Ohio State on the docket here. Obviously, they're just a force to be reckoned with. Perennial power here in the WCHA. Huskies kind of. I mean, it's tough to say that we've had success against them, because obviously I wouldn't say that's the case, but we played some competitive games with them. This is kind of an interesting weekend, I think, at least, where you've got a 6:00 game on Friday, and then Saturday you've got a 2:00 game, and the men don't play at home. Usually, the afternoon games, sometimes, if the men play at home, the games at 6. But I think this season they've made kind of a conscious effort to have it as a Saturday afternoon games to be more the norm, and I do appreciate that as someone with a family and looking for a Saturday things to do. So I do something I like to see. So I just want to put that out there. But Ohio State really led by their monster forward group, Joy Dunn, Hilda Svensson, who I think is going to be runaway rookie of the year. 13 goals, 23 assists in just 20 games, 36 points. She's absolutely a force. And then they're just incredibly deep, and they've got solid goaltending to boot. Either if it's Haley McLeod, or they've been giving a couple of starts here to Taylor Cresson here. It looks like they've got 4 starts, kind of spattered here through October, November. I don't know how much we're going to see of her this weekend. Haley McLeod has been kind of the stalwart goaltender for Ohio State for the past 2 seasons. Right now sporting a 181 goals against average. So it's an incredibly deep team, incredibly tough to play against. St. Cloud does have, I think the ability to kind of sneak in and grab some points this weekend. I would love to see it. You can flash back to the series at Ohio State. That was a tie game in the second period in the first game, when Svensson got a penalty shot, able to convert, and then the third period, the wheels kind of fell off for the 5-1 victory for Ohio State. And then you're looking at the Saturday game, and that Saturday game is the one that really sticks out to me. You got a 2-0 lead early in the third period. And then what was that? Was that a 5-minute penalty? Pion takes for contact to the
Correct.
head, and then 2 power play goals. Kind of sink there. Joy Dunn does what Joy Dunn does, and was able to get a hat trick. Svensson had 3 assists there that game, but it's an instance where St. Cloud, if they're able to play a full game, I think we've got the ability to kind of sneak up and steal some points against Ohio State. Ohio State's going to dominate possession. They're going to dominate on shots on goal. But I do think that St. Cloud has a chance here. If we're going to get the second half started off on the right foot. I think this is a good test, a good opportunities. It's a tough way to open the second half, where you have Ohio State, Minnesota, Duluth, and then Minnesota, to kind of start out January. So you're hitting the ground running here before you get to the kind of the Olympic portion of the schedule. So it's going to be a big test, and we'll see if the Huskies are kind of up to the challenge. What are you looking forward to out of the series?
Yeah, you summed it up very well there.
I gotta stop doing that. I should everything I'm going to say, I should just stop after 4 sentences.
No, you're just doing too good of a job. It's not, you're not doing anything wrong. But I can certainly pick up on some of this. It's, as you mentioned, like the schedule here. I wish that you get, Ohio State, Duluth, and Minnesota, bing, bang, boom, right off the bat in the second half. I suppose, iron sharpens iron. It's one part of me wants a bit of an easing into such a stretch like that, but why not? This weekend against Ohio State is going to prepare you against a suddenly reeling Duluth team. You can touch on that a little bit for next week. So maybe we need to, the only way that St. Cloud's going to improve is to play the elite teams like this. Again, with a weekend that those scores against Penn State, that was a tough series for Ohio State, and they were clearly taking them seriously. I'm not saying that this is going to be a letdown weekend, because I don't think that Ohio State looks down on St. Cloud State either. I think St. Cloud's a team that they take seriously as well. We saw that with that third period. Needed to have that 5-minute major, bit of a controversial call there on Pion, but they needed that in order to pull that game out. And this is, obviously last year, tie against Ohio State. Year before, St. Cloud goes out to Columbus and beats them. So, and this is a team that generally doesn't lose games against teams that aren't named Wisconsin in the last couple of years, just at all. So I certainly think that the Huskies have Muzzerall's attention, and they reserve enough in the tank to take them seriously. One different thing for the Huskies this series, rather than that series in Columbus, and it's a big one, Kariko healthy for this series. That series in Columbus was during her injury. So JoJo got both of those games last year Carrico got in 2 games. She played 2 games against the Buckeyes. She was the starter in that 3-3 tie. And she needed to make every save she did in that game, 45 saves in that game, to get St. Cloud out of that with a tie. And then their last series, the last regular season series of the year in Columbus, she gets the 3-2 loss, and Ohio State needed to score a late goal to win that one. And so they're aware of Carrico. 2 good games and 2 games played with them. They really handled a Hola last year, but Carrico was the St. Cloud goalie that they sort of had a bit of a tough time against. So I think that's going to be a different look for the Buckeyes versus their first meeting this season. And hopefully the Huskies can, use what's been a very hot Carrico, at least to end the first half. She was at the top of her game. If we can see some of that here this weekend, it's going to go a long ways for the Huskies to have a chance to get some points out of the Buckeyes. And any points you get out of them is going to greatly boost the math for St. Cloud. Iowa State, they're always up there when it comes to the NPI. Right now at number 2, just behind Wisconsin. They were number 1 for much of the year, except that sweep at the hands of Wisconsin in Columbus by the Badgers kind of swapped those 2 teams. And like we've seen the last couple of years, three years in a row, we've seen these 2 teams end the season in the national title game between Wisconsin and Ohio State. You look at the NPI right now, those are the 2 teams at the top of the standings. So we might see another one of those. Would not shock me if we see those 2 teams end yet another season this year in that title game. So this is a force to reckon with. We've seen the Huskies. We've liked a lot of kind of the increased offense from this team, especially like when we're talking about defensive input into the scoring chart. I'd like to see a little bit more of that. Second half now starting, we get to see players like McCallion, see what she does after a really good first half of her freshman season. If she can build on that in the second half, making adjustments. Now we're seeing teams for the second time now this year. That's really where you can kind of see teams separate each other by making adjustments since the first time that you matched up against them. So obviously Ohio State's going to do the same thing. They've seen the St. Cloud freshmen already once this year, and can they make those adjustments the second time that they see them? Stout defense for the Buckeyes as well. I think Emma Peschel right now is their best defender. We saw her score some key goals in that comeback win for them in Columbus. It's a good physical defensive core for them. And so they're going to cause problems for a lot of teams. And St. Cloud was one of those teams early in the season. Again, if we could see bigger ice, got to make them work a little bit harder. It's always very difficult when we're matching up against the cream of the crop of the WCA, just to say, hey, they're going to split the series, or more than that, obviously. But I don't know, something about it. I feel like they can get some points out of this weekend. It's going to be something that you need to take into overtime. I don't know if I'm as bold to predict that they can win a regulation game against this team, but it wouldn't be the biggest shocker that I've seen. So it's just weird that it's now the start of the second half. It's not like we haven't played for about a month now in a real game. Obviously had that limber up exhibition game with the Tommies, but as far as a real game goes, haven't played since Mankato last month. So but I'll go ahead. I'll say we get an overtime result this weekend. Are you, it's weird to say, are you as confident as I am?
Yeah, I think so. You're looking at last year.
I'm more confident.
And St. Cloud again, or at least in at the Herb. 2-2 going into the third. Dale Ross scores a power play goal with about a minute left to go to tie it up. as well to force overtime. Nothing happens in overtime, gets the shootout win. So they got 2 points there. I remember that game. That was a very fun, exciting game to go to. But even at Ohio State, later on last year, where you kind of skate with them, and it was, towards the end of the game, 2-2, and then Ohio State was just able to kind of squeak it on through and 3-2 victory. And then that 5-3 game as well. St. Cloud State was up 3-2 again, and then got kind of the benefit of a call that I did not really think was a roughing call there on Emma Gentry, and was able to squeak out some wins there. So it's like, so that's why maybe I'm a little bit more confident against Ohio State, even though they're always so incredibly good. But I think it's going to be one of those games where, if this team believes that they can, and I believe that they can get a result against Ohio State. And I want them to show it that they can. Now, one of the games I think might be, like a 4-1, 5-1 game, that I can see that happening, but I do think one of them is going to be incredibly tight. And I think we are able to at least force overtime on that. And I think that'd be a good result against, again, a incredibly talented top tier team in Ohio State.
Sure, love to see it. Again, when playing, that's the benefit of it's the benefit and the curse of the WCHA is that every weekend, essentially, you're going to have chances to improve your standings, either in the conference standings or the NPI. This would be a big opportunity for them to do just that. You've got Mankato with that revenge series against the Gophers, with Mankato sweeping that home and home. Was that just last month or maybe the end of November? Now the Gophers have a chance to return the favor, and with Mankato being the team directly above the Huskies in the standings, this is an opportunity for them to try to make up some ground against a really high quality opponent. And Ohio State gets to see Mankato the weekend after this series that they see the Huskies. So they're kind of in a Minskew 2-week stretch here against Minskew's best. So again, the task here, the second half of the schedule gets off. It's likely their toughest 3-week stretch. I mean, you had the one in the first half of the season as well, but certainly in the second half of the season, this is your toughest stretch, and it's right off the bat. So it's kind of hard to gauge, because it's not less so than the men's team, which we have the momentum for what it is that you gained after winning the hardware in Palm Springs. We don't have the same thing coming out of this. We think it happened St. Thomas exhibition game, unfortunately. So let's hope that we just generate that momentum organically in that Friday game. Let's see it happen.
Yep. So I think it goes without saying you're starting Carrico both nights.
I mean, certainly on Friday.
Yeah,
we did see some Olympic rosters unveiled over the weekend, and including Finland's, which included Carrico, and it included Siri Urela. Did not include, conspicuously, Sofiana Sunderland. Now, Finland is a international power, not at the level in the women's side of the U.S. or Canada, of course, but I was a little surprised not to see Sunderland included in that group. But in terms of the goaltending for this weekend, and I want you to comment on Sunderland's snubbing, as it were, on the Finland Olympic roster. But from the goaltending perspective, we do have the confirmation it was expected. We're still expecting 2 once Switzerland announces their roster, that Laura Zimmerman's going to be on that Olympic roster, and probably Svenja Vogt on Germany's roster when that's announced as well. So that February stretch is right around the corner here. 3 weeks, you're thinking that these players are going to be unavailable for the Huskies. So when you're saying both games this weekend, I'm kind of one where it's like, just give me the one. We're playing it one game at a time. I'm not really planning on who's starting in net on Saturday, but looking at Kariko's likely going to be out for several weeks here very soon, might as well want to concentrate as many opportunities for her in net prior to her going to Italy. So I would probably say yes. She has been no shade thrown at JoJo, but Kariko's been the better goalie this year. And so if I've got to pick a starter on Saturday, we can just not even think about Friday, but I've just got to pick a starter on Saturday. Yeah, I'd pick Kariko because she's been the better of the two goalies this year. But usually I go one game at a time, but also considering that she probably is going to be missing here for the Olympics and this tough 3 series stretch coming up, I want to get as much Kariko as possible.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Only 5-3-1 on the season, but a 183 goals against with a 942 save percentage. I think you give her both starts. You're going to have JoJo for the February when Kariko's off in the Olympics. And that's when JoJo's going to step up. I think it's, everything's been a little bit more underwhelming for her this season. Obviously, I would imagine, much to her, chagrin as well, that she knows that she can play better than this, and she's going to be counted on to get to those games where points are going to be incredibly important to grab. But yeah, just touching on that Finland roster, because that was a little bit perplexing to me as well. Now, Sunderland, obviously a junior, last year had 20 points, 11 goals, 9 assists in 36 games. This year, 8 goals, 8 assists in 20 games. So 16 points, only 4 points off of her best mark of last year, and has been just kind of one of the more consistent points producers on tops on the team. So I was kind of just looking into some of her stats and seeing, what is the philosophy of it. So I looked at, okay, so who do they have coming in to replace her, and what would be some reasons to not bring her? So I just kind of looked at some stats, and there maybe is something there to look at her previous world championships, and something that you've actually brought up in the past too, Andrew, is you feel that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you feel that Sunderland kind of disappears when it comes to elite competition. Now, am I right in that assessment of what you said, or am I off base?
I mean, she's played better. I think I would have mentioned that after that Ohio State series this year, because at that point, the 2 Minnesota games and the two Ohio State games, to that point, she had a donut for those 4. Now, since then, she had 2-point weekend against Duluth. She had a point against Wisconsin. She had the hat trick against Colgate. Yes, Colgate's not the same as they have been in years past, but she's kind of picked it up. Whereas at the end, she's picked it up where sure. I think Sorial has still kind of struggled against the elite teams. So to an extent, yes, but maybe it was me that motivated her to pick it up there, since I did mention that after the Ohio State series.
So, Sophie and Son, if you're a big fan of the show, please send us an email and say,
of course she is.
Thank you for listening. And if you want to try to win tickets to your hockey game, we can definitely arrange that.
We can arrange
as
that.
Well. But just looking at last year at the World Championships, 7 games played, no points, -7. Year before that, 7 games played, a goal, -1. Year before that, did have 5 assists, 7 in 7 games, no goals. And then she was on the Olympic team, 7 games, no goals, or no points. So that kind of got me thinking, is that if we're looking at this from an aspect, and that's all according to elite prospects. So if I'm wrong on those numbers, blame them. But it kind of got me wondering that, okay, maybe they just don't look at her as being able to perform on this stage. So they're going to go ahead and leave her off. So I looked and decided, okay, let's compare rosters. Who are they bringing instead? Maybe I can see, maybe they're bringing up somebody young who is able to produce, and this is who they're transferring. But when I looked at that, and I couldn't find anybody that they're bringing in, so it's just that they left her off, and that's it. And that's really bizarre. Then, like, if you're going to go that route with it, and I think like looking at her stats, she's having, I think, her best season. I think she's a complete player. I don't see the rationale of just leaving her off. And they're also taking one less defenseman too, or I'm sorry, defender as well. So, I mean, it's just all perplexing to me on how she's left off the roster if you're just not deciding to take her. The only thing I can think of that fits this scenario, and I don't think it would happen, but if it would be a situation where Sunderland would go, but it was her choice not to go because she would be either relegated to fourth line or healthy scratch, and she would rather spend a month playing hockey in the WCHA for a team that, you know, really is making a press for being in the NPI and being in the top teams, and then also thinking about pro aspirations as well. So, I mean, that's all kind of reckless speculation on my part, and to turn down the Olympics for that, I don't know. But, you know, she already has a bronze. So maybe, I don't know. It's, it's kind of, I don't know. It's just perplexing. I don't know if we'll ever get an answer on that. I don't know if Mick Hatton's ever going to ask a question about that, or even how you approach a question. Like, you don't just call up Sophiana and just say, hey, why weren't you selected? At least I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. Sophiana, if you're listening and you want to write in, please do. No, but in all
aspects, it would be kind of interesting to get her perspective on the process and the situation.
It just to be left off and comparing rosters, and there is no change, and maybe they're just waiting for another late ad or something. I don't know, but at any rate, if her being left off is, you know, that sucks for her. If that's the case, it is a boost here for St. Cloud State.
It is.
That's definitely for sure.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought process too. It's like, yes, it's you'd like to see him get the opportunity to play at the Olympics. Obviously, it's a big deal that doesn't literally happen it happens every 4 years. So you'd like to have your players, and it, you know, prior to the PWHL, that was, you know, women's hockey, NCAA women's hockey's program. Perhaps their biggest feather in their cap was players that they would send to the Olympics. So it's a bummer that she's not included here. But my next thought was, you know, we were thinking this whole time, even before the season, previewing the season, we're missing 5 players. And yeah, some of them, you know, it spans the gamut. A player like Vogt, not necessarily like a high impact player, to a player like Sunderland, who figure to be maybe your best all around offensive player. So you're telling me that she's going to be sticking around here in February rather than playing in the Olympics? As a selfish Huskies fan, yeah, I'm fine with that. As a more, like, I feel for her missing the opportunity. I do feel for that aspect of it. But again, maybe she had some input here. You would assume that she would want to have the opportunity to go and play in the Olympics, represent her country. But perhaps she had some input in the situation. It would be interesting to get her insight, either on the process or what the decision making came down to. I mean, we can mention too other Huskies involved in that, other than Urela and Kariko, old friends, Sandy Ahola, who I mentioned already on this show. So it'll be Ahola and Kariko goaltending for Finland, and then Yanina Nyland, recent grad, and so she's also making the team too. So 4 Huskies, either past or present, involved in the team. So congrats to them. It's the team that has the biggest Husky contingent, so they are kind of going to be interesting to keep an eye on. But this one was a bit of a head scratcher, but like I said, from a Huskies perspective, it is kind of it softens the blow from this period in February where it's just going to be weird playing without so many key players. But at least with Sunderland, for now, again, you mentioned things could change. Someone could get injured. But for now, it looks like Sunderland's going to be sticking around St. Cloud for that month.
Quickly, as you were talking about the PWHL and last bit of Husky news, Dale Ross activated from her injury. She actually played the last part of the season last season. That's an incredibly confusing sentence, but with a torn ACL,
I think I got it.
So she had surgery on the off season and hasn't been able to make her debut for the New York Sirens, who desperately need some help on defense. So, but Dale Ross is set to make her debut now. I activated off injured reserve, so I will be excited to watch her debut. All those games are on YouTube, and I think I tweeted this, about a couple of weeks ago, and it's so stupid to say, but God, it's such good hockey. It's like the PWHL, all free on YouTube. It's just entertaining to watch, to watch them play. So if you've got a chance, just throw on a PWHL game, because they're just solid hockey to watch.
Indeed. There was one time that I was out drinking and I was walking home and I twisted my knee, and I woke up the next day and I was writhing in pain. Oh my God. I got x-rays done. I couldn't walk. It turns out it didn't do any ACL damage or anything like that. But I was basically I had to wear one of those knee sleeves. I was non-functional for about a month after that. Now to hear that Dale Ross was playing for a good chunk of last year on a partially torn ACL, she's an athlete and I'm not. Mad props to Dale Ross on that.
It's so it looks like her first game, I believe, will be tomorrow. So you'll be listening to it today on the 6th, against Toronto, against Emma Gentry. So it'll be little Husky reunion. Maybe we'll get a nice picture of them too at center ice. But some Huskies in the pros, love to see it. Anything else? Let's see. Do we have any questions? I was a little bit late getting it out there. After a good weekend, can you believe the February fall off won't happen this year?
First of all, it's the February funk. That's the official term for this show. It's the February funk. It was the January junk, but we're not. Well, let's hope we don't need to use the January junk this year, because we dejunked them after the Cactus Cup. But yeah, the better that you do in January, the better that the February funk will be staved off as well, I would think.
Exactly. So, yeah. And then do we have any update on Tanner Hendricks? That's a good point. I believe end of January, early February was the last update that I had.
Sounds about right. Well, it was supposed to be, I think it happened either October 31st or November 1st. I think it was the Halloween game. And I think at that point they were thinking early February as a rough timeline. So yeah. I haven't heard any changes on that. We're getting closer to that.
We're getting closer to it.
Yeah, let's hope.
Indeed. Well, that about does her on this episode of the Huskies Hockey Podcast. A lot to talk about. A little over 2 hours. Yeah, is what it is, right? I'll do
par for the
everything I
course.
can to make sure I put the right file up there. Thank you for everyone's patience as I put the wrong file up this last time. So I'll make sure to get the right one out. And thank you everybody for listening. Andrew, do you have any parting words?
I should have put this in the front loaded Cactus Cup review, but did get a couple of, hey, listen to the show.
Whoa,
Some
really?
fans. Yeah.
God,
So
the diehards coming out.
one was just random at the hotel. Thanks, Matt. Hope you had a good flight back. But like to see it. I always like to say you're part of a very exclusive club. Not many people listen to this show, but it's like we have a secret handshake.
We have a secret society here.
If you know, you know. And if you like the show, you get it. You get what we're doing.
So what? He just kind of randomly came up to you in the lobby and was like, "Hey, love the show."
Right. And I was struggling. He probably thinks I'm an idiot because I just had, which he's not wrong, but I was pouring a cup of coffee and I was really struggling with their lid on the cup of coffee and I was fumbling around with it and I kind of spilled a little bit at one point of it. But I don't often get confronted not confront. That's too aggressive of a term, but approached in hotels asking, "Oh, are you Andrew?" Indeed, I am, sir. And yes, thank you for listening. But seriously, thank you for those who did come up to me and say hi. We enjoy the community here of listeners, and what's more, we liked that we saw the Huskies win something this weekend, even if it is a pathetically small trophy.
We always joke that not a lot of people listen, but the listeners we do have, we love it when you reach out. We love it that you tweet us, and we do it because we love Husky hockey. Sometimes it doesn't sound like we do, but this is why we do it, and we just love sitting here talking about it. But I guess the most important question that I have then, were beers exchanged?
No. Well, part of my review, not that this is uncommon in sporting events these days, but the prices of food and bev at Aquash Arena, the tickets were actually very reasonable. But the food and bev was a little bit steep. So I would not. I probably would
hold out for Applebee's.
Probably would have refused. Hey, you can dog Applebee's all you want, and I was doing the same as well. Half price apps and like $3 drink specials after 9 o'clock.
Applebee's, I think, holds a very specific place, and if it like to me, also it's the same as Olive Garden. It is what it is. Enjoy it for what it is. Stop thinking it needs to be or should be more. Just let it be what it is.
Right.
If
it wasn't open
for that, we
would have had to drive 20 more minutes for something, and we would not have met the babbling hockey announcer if not for that Applebee's. So the Applebee's made a connection, and for that,
maybe that was like
grateful.
Maybe that was the official sponsor. Maybe they like that's where the whole after party was at the Applebee's, because there was nobody.
Oh well, if it was the after party, he was the only one invited because he was the only one there out of his party. He didn't bring Grant there, which was surprising how much he talked about him as if they were long close friends. But he's a good guy. I'm giving him too much crap. If you're listening, Gizmo, you did good, kid.
You did good. Like I said, I liked they were. I liked them as a pairing, and I thought it was overall a good stream. Just don't forget to cancel. So
cancel that stream, but get as much out of it as you want. Listen, watch those USA.
You got the month. Yep.
You got the month.
We should.
And watch that Lindenwood games. See if that guy actually had 75 shots.
Yeah, and maybe see some USHL games, and I don't know what type of feed, what they have, or if they have the play-by-play announcers, but we have some old KBSE guys doing some feeds as well. I wonder if their feeds are being piped into Flow Sports as well. So we'll listen to some of the KBSE guys. I think Alex is in Lincoln, I believe. So
That's right.
But I don't know if it's just radio side and they have different TV guys. I should have double checked that before I just spouted off random stuff. But still, follow Sydney Wolf for Husky recruit information and get the most out of your Flow Sports. With all of that said, go Huskies. Woo! Woo!